Hey everyone, we're going to take our class notes on 9.3. It's the third day of class notes. We're graphing quadratic functions again today. So as you're learning the steps, hopefully you're starting to feel comfortable with them. We list the ABC. We find the vertex by using opposite b over 2a. That's the x-coordinate of the vertex. Then we sub back in to find the y-coordinate. We put the vertex in the middle of our table, and then we graph. So let's get started with our two examples that I have for you today, and then you will do 1 through 5 odd for homework on this worksheet. So here is our function. If you don't see a number, remember it's an invisible 1. So for me, my a is 1, not 0. Most common mistake is students will put 0. Please remember that there is a 1 there. B is 2, and C is -1. So when I go to find the vertex, which is either the highest or lowest point, I'm going to use opposite b over 2a. And if b is 2, then the opposite of that is -2 over 2 times a, and in this case it's going to be 2 times 1. So I get -2 over 2, and that reduces to a -1. So the x-coordinate of my vertex is -1. Finding the y-coordinate, this is where students always forget what we have to do. You go back to your original problem. We need to find the y, so we keep the y, bring the 1, and then you're subbing in a -1 squared. Then there's a plus and a 2. And I need to plug in for x. So in both locations, we're going to sub in a -1. And then I have a -1 that's part of this as well. So this is the original, just where there was an x here, I put a -1, and where there was an x here, I put a -1. Order of operations says we have to do exponents first. So again, here's where I'll see a lot of mistakes. Be careful, you have to do this piece first before you multiply these. So this becomes 1. Because a -1 times a -1 is 1. 1 times 1, 1. Multiply these to get -2, and then a -1. And then you can do this however you'd like, because it's all subtraction going on. 1 minus 2 is a -1, a -1, and a -1 is a -2. I make my table. I put my vertex in the middle of the table. Pick numbers that are smaller and numbers that are bigger. Now remember, if 0 is in your table, then across from the 0, wherever it is, you can put your C value. So I know that a -1 goes here. Because of the symmetry piece, if a -1 goes here, that's right next to the -2. So right above the -2 is also going to be a -1. Now it's up to you. You have options. Pick 1 or -3. What's easier for you to do the math up with? I would probably assume 1. Where do you go? Well, it's the x value. Where do you go to find the y? You go back to the original. It's the only place where we have the y. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in 1. So I have 1 times 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 1. So in both of the x locations, I've now put a 1. That's the original problem, just without the x's. Exponent first. 1 times 1, 1 times the 1 that's outside, 1, 2 times 1, 2, and then the -1 comes down. 1 plus 2, same signs, add and keep. 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So when I plug in 1, I get out 2. Again, if I have a 2 here, then I'll have a 2 at the top of the table. And then I make my coordinate plane and I graph these points. Again, we're graphing parabolas because these are quadratics. And then I go 3 to the left and up 2, 2 to the left and down 1, 1 to the left and down 2. Oops, here we go, not there. 0 down 1. And 1 up 2. And then I'm going to connect these points. And then I'm done with number 1. Moving on to number 2. Listing A, B, and C is step 1. And again, here you have to be very careful. You should definitely put in that -1 because a lot of students will make mistakes when there's a negative in front. So A is -1, B is -2, and C is -3. Vertex, x chord, opposite B over 2A. The opposite of B is going to be 2, and 2 times a -1, because A is -1, so I sub in. You have to do the math in the bottom first. So you get 2 over -2, which is a -1. Now subbing in to find the y, back to the original. In both of the locations there's an x, we're plugging in -1. Everything else will stay the same. Order of operations says this first. A -1 squared, a negative times negative becomes positive. So this is 1, but we have to multiply it with a -1. So that actually becomes a -1. A -2 times a -1, a negative times a negative, +2, and then the -3 comes down. -1 and 2, different signs, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger. We get 1 minus 3. The -3 comes down. 1 minus 3 is a -2. So my vertex is -1, -2. I make my table. Put my vertex in the middle, 2 numbers smaller, and 2 numbers bigger. Again, 0's in my table. Across from the 0 goes your C value, so I can put a -3 here. And if a -3 goes here, it's 1 below the vertex, so 1 above the vertex will also be a -3. Options on what you want to plug in. I'm going to plug in 1. Where is the 1 going? Back to the original. In for the x's. So the first thing I see is a y equals and a -1. Then I sub in the 1, keep the squared, -2 times 1 minus 3. Just following that original problem and plugging in. This first, 1 times a -1. This second, or third really, -2 times 1, and then a -3. Same sign, so you just add all these numbers and keep it negative. We're going to get -3 and a -3, which is a -6. So if I need a -6 here, then a -6 goes here. And we graph. Three to the left and down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 to the left and down 3. 1 to the left and down 2. Stay at 0, down 3. To the right 1 and down 6. And then we connect these. And we are finished. Good luck trying the 3 that you have to do for homework. Bye, everyone.